Although we've touched on domain and range a little bit, it's really, what is domain and range? Well, if you look at any given function, we'll just make a function box. The domain is the input, in other words, what goes into the function, and the range is what comes out of the function. Input, output, x value, y value. Okay. Independent variable, dependent variable. Sometimes you don't hear those terms a lot, but sometimes you do hear them. And if you look at the first letters for all of these, it's just kind of a little mnemonic for remembering them. Dixieroid. And if it's helpful, use it. If it's not, don't worry about it. But basically, domain is the input, is the x value, and is the independent variable. But domain and range are a little more than just being the x or the y value. It is what can it be. Okay, not just what is it, but what can it be. So let me get rid of all these again. Okay, so if I give you a table, and I'll just make up a bunch of points, it doesn't matter. If I give you a table, then it's easy. The domain are those individual points. Okay, that's the domain. And the range are these points, or these values. So if you're writing them, you say domain is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Range is 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay? If you were given points, you say, what's the domain of this particular function? A discrete function now, because they're individual points. What's the domain? It's just all the x values. Is the domain 4? No. The domain is 1, 3, 5, 7. The range, however, 2, 4, 6, 8. The range 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay? That's as simple as it gets, basically. If you are given an equation, now we're talking a continuous function rather than individual points. The domain basically is all real numbers. I can plug anything into x. A lot of times you'll see all real numbers as a script R, or you can just write all real numbers. Okay? That's the domain, which means the range can also be all real numbers because it's a continuous function. Okay? And if you are given a table, a graph, you say, well, what's the domain? If it has endpoints, then you say the domain is from here to here. Okay. And the range is from here to here on the y-axis. Remember, domain is x-axis, range is on the y-axis. Okay. If they're individual points, then you have to find the x value for each one of those, and that's the domain, and and then the y value for each one of those, and that would be the range. And that's really basically what domain and range is: the input and the output. To be a function for any given domain, there can only be one output. There can only be one range value. And that's it for domain and range.